Welcome back to this course on copyright and related rights law. This week, we have been studying the subject matter of dramatic works under copyright law. We had already looked at three subject matters of literary works, artistic works, and musical works. Dramatic works is the fourth subject matter. In the previous session, we discussed how dramatic works are different from cinematographic works in some copyright acts, and in other copyright acts, how cinematographic works are considered as a part of dramatic works. In this particular session, we are going to look at a peculiar form of subject matter which has been considered as a contestable addition to dramatic works: TV formats. All of us, or many of us, are used to browsing through channels on our cable television, on TV. Many of the shows that we have watched are TV serials. We have also watched game shows. Game shows such as Kaun Banega Crorepati is a famous game show which many of us have watched. The famous Indian superstar Amitabh Bachchan host. We have also seen reality TV shows like Big Boss. Many of these shows are in fact now shifting from television as we know it to streaming platforms online. TV shows such as Stranger Things are shows in which there are specific episodes which are released in what is called as a season. A season is cohesively connected by a plot wherein the characters in the story interact with each other in a particular manner. What we can state is that the script that is used for such a television show, such as Stranger Things, is a dramatic work. How do we know that it is a dramatic work? It is a portrayal of life. There are characters. There is certainty of such a performance. There is action in such performance. It is fixated. Therefore, we know that the script is definitely a dramatic work. On the consideration of whether the cinematograph work, or in other words, the eventual recordings that are seen by audiences, whether that is a dramatic work or not, depends on how cinematograph works are considered in that specific jurisdiction. We have also seen shows on cooking, shows that bring a contest between competing chefs who make ingenious dishes based on recipes, perhaps of their own creation, to the table. Can we say that there is a dramatic work in existence in the format of such a show? Why is it that there is some confusion here as against a TV show here? In reality TV shows, such as the ones involving cooking, will involve spontaneity in action, even though there might be a format which might be followed, such as the format that is followed in the show called MasterChef. But the contestants are real. In fact, the manner in which the contestants contest is not fixed. In that sense, it is very similar to how sports were excluded from consideration as dramatic works. How then, if at all, can TV formats fit within the ambit of dramatic works? Thus, in this session, we are looking at TV formats specifically because they might be satisfying some aspects of dramatic works, but they also seem to be containing those elements which are considered as elements that will be excluded from the domain of dramatic work. Let us first keep in our mind that dramatic works are based on fixated expressions. A script, for example, with relation to a television show would be a prerequisite. In a TV format, what we can consider is that there are certain guiding structures. Let us call it that. Consider this show where the essential consideration is based on a contest between chefs. But there is a format or a guiding structure that runs this entire show. There will be a certain type of host, there will be certain rules or procedures that will guide the contest in a particular manner. The set, the arrangement of the set, all of these things point out to a certain specificity. But because the contest itself is spontaneous, there is also ambiguity. Therefore, a TV show and its format points to certain interesting considerations on whether it can in fact be brought within the sphere of dramatic work or not. Let us for a moment think back on how we understood the non-application of dramatic work wherein there is spontaneity of action. You would recall we discussed that wherein there is a performance, if a dramatic work is to exist, the dramatic work must be created or its fixated form must exist prior to the performance taking place. And therefore, any performance that's taking place is predetermined, and spontaneity in action is not something that can be considered as a dramatic work. Perhaps the most referred decision in relation to TV formats and their copyrightability is Green versus Broadcasting Corporation of New Zealand, a Privy Council decision from 1989. What the court considered was whether the claim that a format of a talent show called Opportunity Knocks, which apparently was copied in a similar TV show broadcasted by the Broadcasting Corporation of New Zealand, was protected under copyright. What was the claim? That this format was a dramatic work. Something important that must be mentioned at this point itself was that there was no script which was presented by way of evidence to the court. Here in itself, there was an issue on what exactly was it that was being claimed as a dramatic work. It was then alternatively suggested that when we watch game shows or talent shows, there are certain distinctive elements which we will recall from such talent show. What are these? There will be a specific arrangement to the set. There will be certain sounds which will be particular to an action taking place on the stage. For instance, if the contestant were to win a particular round, there would be a certain kind of demonstration of celebration that we can see. Therefore, would it not be possible that certain essential features of the show which remain constant throughout the episodes of the show can be considered as a dramatic work. In other words, can this not be called as the format of the show? How the court understood this particular terminology is as follows. Format of the show refers to those characteristic features of the show which are repeated in each performance. These features were, in this particular show, Opportunity Knocks, in addition to the title, the use of the catchphrases for the name of the competitor, Opportunity Knocks, this is your show, folks, and I do mean you, and make up your mind time, and use of a device called a clapometer to measure audience reaction to competitors' performances, and the use of sponsors to introduce competitors. The court found it to be a stretch of the imagination to extend the ordinary meaning of the term format to such essential features that can be noted in different episodes of a show. What it stated is, it is stretching the original use of the word format a long way to use it metaphorically to describe the features of a television series such as a talent, quiz or game show which is presented in a particular way with repeated but unconnected use of set phrases and with the aid of particular accessories. What the court was referring here was that these elements were isolated elements and something that needs to be present if a dramatic work has to exist was a connecting thread which connected these elements together. According to the court, this connecting thread was something which was not certain. It stated, the difficulty in finding an appropriate term to describe the nature of the work. Is it a format? Is it a structure? Is it some kind of a package? Reflects the difficulty of the concept that a number of allegedly distinctive features of a television series can be isolated from the changing material presented in each separate performance and identified as an original dramatic work. This was compounded by the fact that there was no script which was presented by the plaintiff. Accordingly, what the court stated is that the subject matter of copyright claimed for the dramatic format of Opportunity Knocks is conspicuously lacking in certainty. A dramatic work must have sufficient unity to be capable of performance, and that the features claimed as constituting the format of a television show being unrelated to each other except as accessories to be used in the presentation of some other dramatic or musical performance lack that essential characteristic. In holding that Opportunity Knocks and the format that was being claimed as a dramatic work is not a dramatic work, the court explained the reason why this was so was because these features were independent features and there was no unity in these features. As discussed in the previous session, in a script, what connects the elements in a script is the plot. Similarly, in this particular case, what is it that is connecting these particular features where the performances themselves and the contest itself was completely varied in different episodes? These features could only be considered as accessories in presentation and not as a dramatic work. In other words, if we were trying to piece together these features, are we able to arrive at some kind of a whole? And if we are not, then it doesn't seem to be a dramatic work. In another case that came before the court in UK is Wilson versus Broadcasting Corporation of New Zealand. In this case as well, the claimant was stating that there is in existence a TV format which she was claiming as a dramatic work. What was the subject matter specifically? She had developed the concept of a television series for children in which the central characters were a physically disabled adolescent boy and girl who together performed heroic and magical acts in a generalized confrontation with evil forces. The show was titled The Kiwi Kids. The defendants in this case had produced a show on similar lines called The Kids from OWL. The court stated the quintessential part of the feasibility study relating directly to the Kiwi Kids is a dramatic work. According to the court, the dramatic work is in a material form. All the key components of the plaintiff's concept or format were there. It might be a simple enough idea expressed in that way, but the roots of the defendant's program go straight back to the plaintiff's feasibility study of March 1980. The court has been able to arrive at this particular consideration based on the fact that there is a material form to the dramatic work. How do you make a distinction between the first case and the second case? In the first case, there is an absence of script. In the second case, what is called as a feasibility study is in fact a fixated work, and this fixation has in fact helped the court in objectively assessing the presence of a dramatic work. According to the court, the dramatic work is in a material form. If we refer back to University of London Press versus University Tutorial Press, we will recall that an expression, in order to be considered as a work, must satisfy the objective assessment of what is required from such an expression. In this scenario, in order to be a dramatic work where fixation is a necessary consideration, because the claimant had in fact fixed the expression and there was sufficient certainty in how the performances were expected in this feasibility study, where a similar show was created, it was considered to be infringing. Let us look at another case that comes from the UK. This is Banner Universal Motion Pictures versus Endemol Shine Group. This particular case concerned a TV game show called Minute Winner. Why is this case important? It helps link the cases that we have discussed in terms of the concept that we are attempting to understand. What the court is saying is that the authorities on the point of dramatic work existence seem to be saying that as a minimum, there were a number of clearly identified features which, taken together, distinguished the show in question from others of a similar type, and that those distinguishing features were connected with each other in a coherent framework which could be repeatedly applied so as to enable the show to be reproduced in a recognizable form. What is the court saying? That firstly, there must be some identifiable features which are not common. And secondly, these identifiable features must be connected by some connecting thread. If that was the case, then it was possible for a TV show and its format to be considered as a dramatic work. In other words, the features that seem to be isolated, if can be brought together in a cohesive whole, the format could be considered as a dramatic work. In this particular case though, with respect to this particular show, the manner in which the court is explaining that it is not a dramatic work helps us understand how these features will be identified and what kind of connection is the court looking to find. You can see the court says there is no realistic prospect of the claimant persuading a court that the contents of the minute winner document qualified for copyright protection. This was because those contents were both very unclear and lacking in specifics. And even taken together, they did not identify or prescribe anything resembling a coherent framework or structure which could be relied upon to reproduce a distinctive game show in recognizable form. Rather, the features were commonplace and indistinguishable from the features of many other game shows. Neither the title nor the phrase 1 minute to win could be said to be clear or distinctive. The words 1 minute to win were not even identified in the minute winner document as a catchphrase that was required to be repeated in the program or how that should occur. The performance of a task against the clock to win a game or a prize was a common feature of most game shows, and it did not become distinctive because the time to complete the task was limited to 1 minute. It also had to be noted that the fact that the show would give members of the public the chance to win something on television and having their reactions recorded was entirely non-specific, was inherent in the very nature of a television game show and entirely banal. The minute winner document also did not, for example, prescribe where the action was to take place. Rather, it suggested that it could take place anywhere. Moreover, it did not contain any specification of who the contestants should be or how they were to be identified and approached. And it did not seek to prescribe the type of 1 minute tasks that were to be performed in any such a way that might form a recognizable or repeatable structure. Although it was suggested that a distinctive feature of the format was that the task to be performed within a minute should involve the very item which then formed the prize if the task was completed successfully. The claimant's manifest difficulty was that this was not actually specified anywhere in the minute winner document. The length of the program was also not defined, and the indication in the minute winner document of the times the show could be aired was entirely non-specific, indicating that the show could be aired at virtually any time. What do we understand from these points the court has highlighted with respect to the show? We see the court is targeting the non-specificity in the document called as the minute winner document, where a particular ingredient or a particular connection between ingredients could be claimed as some kind of a dramatic work that was not present in the document. Therefore, whenever a TV format is being claimed as a dramatic work, there must be a fixation, and the fixation must clearly provide information on what is it that the format is looking to protect, the specific nature of such an ingredient, and what is it that is connecting these ingredients together. With that, we finish this week on the subject matter of dramatic works. Not just that, we also finish our foundational study on the basic subject matters of copyright, which are literary, dramatic, musical, and artistic works. Next week, we will start with our discussion into originality, a very important consideration in whether copyright can subsist in the work or not. Thank you for joining me. See you next week. Thank you.